RadioArchives.com presents Citadel of Hell, the sixth adventure of the Spider, by Norval W. Page, writing as Grant Stockbridge. Read by Nick Santamaria. Richard Wentworth, wealthy man about town and master of disguise, devotes his life to the pursuit of justice for the downtrodden, the poor, and the helpless. Donning a wide-brimmed black hat, sinister black cape, and a pair of .45 automatics, Wentworth prowls the streets of New York as his alter ego, the Spider, master of men, challenging criminal masterminds bent on enslaving or destroying humanity. Wentworth's loyal fiancée, Nita Von Sloan, and Sikh manservant and warrior companion Ram Singh accompany the Spider on his quest to root out evil, the only clue to his deeds of justice, the dreaded red spider seal, left on the foreheads of those he has killed for the good of mankind. And now, the Spider's thrilling adventure, Citadel of Hell.
Chapter 1. The Flaming Death. A gray Packard touring car skated out of 37th into 5th Avenue, tires swishing on the rain-blackened street. It straightened out, its rear swaying wildly, and lunged uptown with motor roaring. A cry rose in Richard Wentworth's throat. He slapped the horn button, wrung a startled squawk from his Hispania Suiza's polite trumpet. It was a blast of warning, a warning of impending death. How horrible that death would be, even Richard Wentworth did not realize. He stood on the accelerator, then with a bitter curse snapped his foot off. This was not his battle. If he blundered into this, he would ruin the whole strategy of his war on the extortionists. His lips twisted into a thin smile as, eyes straining forward over his roadster's gleaming nose, he let his car idle, while ahead the battle lines were drawn. 5th Avenue, its street lamps like evil yellow moons, was as deserted as it ever became. Distantly, a few taxis prowled. A double-deck bus lumbered downtown, and ahead 4 autos maneuvered in a mad game of tag, with a human life the prize. Wentworth caught a gleam of white in the back window of Hanford Tyson's racing limousine, a gleam of white that was the face of a frightened man. Before and behind him, disguised police in 2 Ford coupes rode guard. As the gray Packard, its speed mounting with each bellowing revolution of its motor, charged down on Tyson's limousine, one of the police Fords spurted to cover the left flank. The second Ford, riding ahead, braked sharply, dropping back to help in the defense. Still, Wentworth forced himself to idle along. If the extortionists escaped, he would track them to their headquarters, and his lips became a straight, hard line. The Spider would wreak the toll of his justice upon them. His hands clenched tightly on the wheel. It was hard to stay out of the battle. Guns spat crimson from the 2 police cars, spewing lead at that charging gray brute of a Packard. Its speed was unchecked. Straight for the nearest Ford it raced. At the last instant, it swerved and slammed into the narrow gap between Ford and limousine. Wentworth saw the police driver deliberately throw his car into the path of the charge, take the full brunt of that smashing 3-ton juggernaut. The crash was like the blast of judgment. The Ford's shattered nose spun in a half-mad circle to the left. Its rear started to follow, slapped the snub nose of a passing double-decker bus. It was like a smack in the face of a drunken man. For a terrible instant the Ford straightened up, then its churning wheels flung it, hurdling the curb completely through the plate-glass window of a clothing store. The papier-mâché figure of a woman was draped across the hood. The men inside did not move. These things Wentworth saw in a flash. He saw, too, that the Packard, shearing an instant from that brutal collision, flung on again, shot past the Lincoln limousine. Grimly, Wentworth stamped the accelerator. When the police failed, a missile glinted as it arched from the gray car through the window of Tyson's limousine. Then the Packard was sprinting ahead. The remaining police Ford roared after it, pistols coughing. The Lincoln slowed to a stop. Wentworth snubbed brakes to check his mounting speed. That missile, what could it have been? While Wentworth was braking, still a half a block away, the street was bathed in red as with blood. The pavement glistened with it. Windows shone with it. Tyson's limousine was a torch of roaring flames. The fire was inside the tonneau where that missile had been hurled inside where Hanford Tyson sat. Yellow tongues of it, dripping black smoke, flapped as if in fearful mockery from the windows. Within the Lincoln, a man screamed horribly. Wentworth.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?